Good afternoon and welcome to Main Street Sports. Ray Halbrook here from Livestream STL. Hope everybody's having a great Saturday. And we are live here from none other than the wonderful confines of the Pasta House in Festus. And today is our football preview as we get things rolling here. Just checking a few microphones here real quick, but got some music down here. And we're going to kick it over here. Matt Bates is with us today. Matt, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. And like you said, I'd like to thank all the coaches for taking the time out, because I know here in just a couple weeks they're going to be putting in a lot more time, and days away from the family are going to be at more of a premium there. So we're thankful for them coming out today. Joined right now, our large school segment, first two coaches in the box. We got A.J. Afadale from over at Festus. And next to me, Coach Bill Saharsky over at Hillsboro Hawks. Coach Afadale, last year 6-6, had a nice season. You went to the third round, lost to the Hillsboro Hawks in the District 4 playoffs. You have lost 10 players to graduation this year. Can you give us a little insight as to what side of the ball you lost maybe most of your players on, and maybe what challenges come in preparation for this season?
Most of our losses came on the offensive side of the ball. Some of our offensive linemen, the big names, Armand Branch, who's now at Purdue, who's a huge part of what we did on offense, as well as Landon Bradshaw, who played the majority of the season injured last year, so his impact wasn't felt as much as what we thought it would be going into that season. But we're returning most of our team on defense, which is nice. For the last couple of years, we've played a lot of sophomores, a few freshmen sprinkled in, and so this will be the first time across the board that will be junior, senior heavy again since 2020. So, and that's a high school football, especially, completely different dynamic from a physical standpoint, from a confidence standpoint, and an experience standpoint. So our practices, the tones are a little bit different now. Last year, at times, it felt like we were just, for lack of better terms, babysitting sometimes. I mean, we were very young, especially on the back end a year ago on our defense. And so those guys are now our most experienced guys. And so, kind of trial by fire situation, and we had some very humbling moments last year, which is good to keep things in perspective. But then we also had a few moments of success to build on and try to get something turned in the right direction.
Yeah, Coach, and looking at the season last year, you saw some of the inconsistencies of having a young roster like that, as those guys are learning what they need to do. So. Almost a time Jekyll and Hyde as far as some of the games go. With some games you looked very dominating on both sides of the ball, and other games struggled. But touching on the players that you lost, I know Besor, Tilly are gone now. I think one or not both of your tight ends, I believe. How is the competition going to round out for replacing those guys on the line?
The exciting thing is for us, and just kind of out of nowhere, we have more big people in our program than we've had in the last couple of years. So we have some pretty good depth on the defensive line, pretty good depth offensive line-wise as well. We also have cross-trained a few more guys than we have in the past. Still not trying to necessarily have a bunch of two-way players, but we have guys that are prepared to provide some depth if they need to in those spots. And so, Isaiah Desmarius, who was a kid that played for us as a freshman a couple years ago and then was a starter as a sophomore, has now really emerged into a really dominant guy on our line for us in terms of what we've done this summer and spring. So we're excited about him. He's just a junior, and we have several other guys that have emerged as guys that are going to make us a lot bigger up front than we've been the last couple years, and hopefully we'll end up translating that into being a more physical football team.
Excellent.
Your fourth year here at Festus, Coach. During the preseason, was there any injuries, anything with the heat, any surprises? As far as, something might have just come up and bit you here in the last couple of weeks?
No, for us, heat is rarely an issue, and I don't know if it's the right thing or not, but going way back to situation University of Missouri had with Aaron O'Neal, a heat-related death. At that time, I started taking all of my activities and making them evening activities. So we do everything at 7 o'clock. We play every game at 7 o'clock. So for me, there's no need to unnecessarily train in the heat when we're not going to play in the heat. So You know, if we had a day game, we practice some in the day. But for now, since we play all our games in the evening, we practice in the evening, so it kind of mitigates some of the heat issues. We don't get much canceled from any of the advisories or anything like that, so that helps. And so far, we've been fortunate. You know, everybody's going to be banged up a little bit, bumps and bruises at camp, but we don't have anybody that's had any kind of significant injury throughout the summer or right now, early fall camp.
Thank you for the time, Coach Afadale. We are going to bring in now Coach Bill Saharsky, 10-2 last year. Had a loss to Cardinal Ritter during the regular season, and then that loss to St. Mary's in the Class 4 quarterfinals. You've lost 16 players to graduation. As we were talking prior to, though, as long as you got Paxton Brown back, or Peyton Brown back, yeah, Paxton Brown.
Peyton
Brown.
Yeah.
How important is that to keep at least one key piece? So when you lose 17 players, you're not having to replace, refill across the board. Can you just describe like getting him back to at least help build around something like that? And any other key losses you've had to fill at?
You know, Peyton in the backfield, he's a heck of a football player. We did a lot last year where we rotated really him, Jackson, and Austin. And as talented as Austin and Jackson was, Peyton, in my opinion, is every bit as talented in terms of different style runner. He's a heavy runner in terms of he's a load to bring down, even though he's a little bit smaller than what Austin was. He packs quite a punch, and he's only gotten bigger and stronger. And I think he ran for just shy of 1,000 yards last year and averaged just as many yards per carry as both Austin and Jackson did. So it's a good weapon to have back there, to continue to have back there. His brother's a year older as our quarterback, which is just he's only gotten even better, more confidence in throwing and running the ball. So having those two guys back there, and then we got some other talented kids that just didn't happen to get carries. Aiden Rollins, a junior running back for us, he looked really good in our scrimmage earlier this summer over at St. Clair. So he's done really well. Cohen Linder is another kid, and Chris Duncan. They're different types of backs than what we've had recently. They're more of the shiftier, quicker kids. So we kind of got a good mix of two kids that can lower the shoulder and run, and two kids that can kind of get out and scoot in space.
And Ray and I, we know Cohen Linder very well from his exploits on the baseball field with 253 and, of course, with the Hawks. But, Coach, I'm always going to ask questions about the lineman being an old lineman. That's my favorite part of the game to talk about here. So losing this many players to graduation, who do you guys have to replace on the line, and who are some of the up-and-coming players you hope to fill those slots?
Well, from an offensive line standpoint, we returned 4 or 5 guys. Fortunately, our depth was really good last year. Where defensive line, those guys didn't have to play offensive line, and those guys were 3 seniors up front. So we'll have to replace our D-line, but our O-line comes back pretty much intact. The one kid who's looking to fill in that 5th starter spot, Micah Bacher, he's a really hard worker. He'll be a junior for us, and he finishes really well and plays with the whistle. So he plays with that tenacity, and he'll be a good mix to throw in there. With the 4 guys we got coming back, Wyatt Yeager, he's been basically a 3.5-year starter. He started about halfway through his freshman year on the line, so he's a really experienced kid. And then those guys have just gotten bigger and stronger up front. Wyatt Phillips, he's a lineman who started for us at guard last year, and physically, he's a really good-looking kid, and has just blossomed, and his game's improved tremendously over the last year. But like I said, defensive line-wise, that's where we're going to have to kind of grow up. We got some talented kids there. They just didn't play as much varsity football as they would have with the seniors that they had in front of them last year. Obviously, in the back end of the defense, we lost some seniors there. We got some talented kids that just kind of have to grow up. One thing I think we do a really good job in practice, and I think Coach Schmidt can attest to it, being on our staff the last 3 years, we really try to rip our 1s and 2s about the same amount of time in practice. So part of that is preservation in terms of, take a kid like Peyton Brown, for example. We know what Peyton can do. He doesn't need to take every rep in practice. There's no reason to beat on his body. Let's keep him fresh. Let's get him to Fridays and let him play all out on a Friday night. So we consistently rotate in practice. So even though some of our kids last year on the defensive side didn't get as much experience in games, they at least got a lot of experience in practice.
Sure, absolutely. And you got just real quick open at home against Sykeston, correct?
Correct. That is correct.
Just the way you rotate and incorporate some of the younger bodies in like that, I would say that would be a key to developing like a team chemistry.
I definitely think it helps. Culture and chemistry is important. It's something that you got to work on every year because you have kids graduate, new kids come to your program, and it helps speed up the process. I also think those young kids getting those reps, it translates to them getting more confidence and then having a larger impact on your special teams.
Coach Afadale, same question to you. I mean, do you incorporate some of the younger kids in there? So say like your tackles, guards, things like that, to where you've got some underclassmen able to rotate in just to get some of that team play.
Yeah, so we typically, throughout the summer and fall camp, we divide our team in two, almost like a draft situation. We divide our team into two even teams, so ones and twos are repping. We don't necessarily play them with each other. They play against each other for two reasons. One, when we practice ones versus twos, it's not as competitive as two even teams. And then secondly, by doing it that way, you're able to get really, if you have them, down to fours. So you get a two deep on each side, so you two completely separate teams, and that's how we've always done it for a long time. So that gets a lot of guys, a lot of reps. One of the challenging things in terms of long-term development just is as guys' bodies change, personnel change, needs change, you may rep a guy as a sophomore as a tight end, and then all of a sudden he gets all those reps at tight end, and then, the next year he's playing tackle. So we're starting all over again, and that's kind of the nature of high school too. So, you do your best, but there's always circumstances that, may put a monkey wrench in that plan.
All of a sudden, the kid gains 4 inches in height, 30 pounds, and all of a sudden it looks much better in a blocking position. But, Coach, you open up at home versus St. John, and St. John was pretty decent last year. I'm not going to ask you to preview what they were, but that should be a really good ball game to start the season and kind of be a test of where you guys are at.
Absolutely, and they've done a fantastic job against us the last couple of years. Jay Pope is a great coach down there. He's done some really good things with that program. They'll have a great game plan for us. They always have some new wrinkles, some, adjustment that we're going to have to make. And we, frankly, we've struggled with it as a game one, not necessarily knowing what we're going to see. And, we're doing everything we can to prepare, like it's the Super Bowl for us, to make sure that we put our best foot forward in that game.
Sure.
And to piggyback to Coach Saharsky, you open against Sykeston.
That's correct.
Give us some, or I guess as best of an analysis as you could going into week one there.
We know they have a talented running back, a big kid, over 200-pound kid. I know he's got a handful of D1 offers. Last year they kind of struggled up front, but they got some kids returning. I know they kind of switched out quarterbacks by the end of the year, and I think the kid who played against Coach O and those guys in the playoffs, I think that'll be the kid who'll be their starter. So, having that film from last year kind of gives me an idea of where they were at the end of the year. Taking a peek at that from where they were at the beginning of the year, because teams changed quite a bit. But they're always athletic. They got a really good receiver, big, tall, lanky kid, really phenomenal basketball player. He returns for them. So they definitely always have some weapons and everything. For our kids, it's they all add a cliche of, taking care of ourselves right now. We'll play a physical style football and see if they want to match that.
Coach Fadale, Coach Saharsky. We'll let you guys off the hot seat for right now, so thank you for the time. That was Coach A.J. Fadale from the Festus Tigers and Coach Bill Saharsky from over at the Hillsboro Hawks. And we're going to swap out headsets real quick, and we will
be like NASCAR here. Pit crew change. Pit crew coming in.
The Chinese fire drill goes, and while they're swapping things out, we want to thank so much to the folks here at Pasta House in Festus for being with us and for allowing us to be out here as well, so we can get this thing going here. And we're going to knock over the sign as we're coming in there as well. That's ought to be fun.
We never have this problem with the cross country coaches.
Oh,
did you notice that?
Oh no!
Those guys are
Right. All right, Jeff, go ahead and Matt, go ahead and take it away there, boss.
Up next, we have the Windsor Owls head coach, Jeff Funston, and immediately on my right is Rush Schmidt from over at the DeSoto Dragons. Coach Funston last year, 4-6. You've lost only 5 players to graduation, so that's got to be a real key going into the year. But those guys played some important roles for the teams. What are you looking to accomplish, not only just during the preseason, but as we go into week one, as you will open up at home against Herculaneum?
Good thing is we actually only lost 3 of them.
Wait a minute.
Oh, we got you back on there. Sorry about that.
Start again.
Go
ahead.
Me?
So, yeah, just answer the question.
Sure thing. Yeah, we really only lost 3. We had a 1,000-yard rusher who graduated. We had a two-way O-line D lineman that graduated as well. And again, like you said, they filled some big roles for us. But the good thing about that is that everybody who is coming back, they played a lot, and they are they're able to now be our veterans. So, as we bring up the freshmen to the sophomores, they're able to kind of teach and coach a little bit because they've been doing this for a couple years now, because most of those guys played as sophomores and now are playing as juniors and seniors. It's nice to have a little bit of, I guess, a little bit of experience coming back from some of those guys that have had to play because of a small senior class.
Coach, you talked about only losing 5 players. You've got a bunch of experience, a bunch of game day experience now for the younger kids coming up, and that should bode well for the season. But yeah, losing Jordan Foster at running back, that's a big hole to fill. Who are you looking at here in the camp in these early days of being able to step up and take that role that Jordan had in the backfield for you?
Jordan was he had a little bit of speed, and he had a little bit of toughness as well. He ran hard, got his knees going. He ran real well for us. The guys that are going to replace him, and I say guys because we have about six or seven dudes that all look the same, act the same, run the same. So it's kind of one of these things that drop off, we'll see. They'll be fresher, so maybe towards the end of the game we're able to stay competitive a little bit longer, because in the last few years, we've been 3 quarters and then we start to fade. 2.5 quarters start to fade. Now we've got guys that are we can rotate in, rotate out, and keep those guys fresh, and it won't be one guy that replaces him, but it'll be a consistent guy all the time, because somebody will be in there that hasn't played in a couple downs, and they can give us a full go effort.
Sure.
Coach, you were talking about just the minimal number of players that you've lost, and just the last coaches that we had on here when we were talking to just Saharsky and Fadale, we were talking about team chemistry. So I guess question would be, on your end now, like, what would be something that you want to see carry over from last year, or may not carry over from last year, that you would like to see implemented maybe this year?
Boy, I tell you, we're starting to see guys come together a little bit better. We're starting to see some of the fruit of our Junior Owls program. We've the 2 classes we have now are 2 classes that kind of started with the Junior Owls. So now we're starting to see the fruits of that. The chemistry is a little bit better. Just they want to be around each other. We took a look around practice today and today or yesterday, whatever it was, and we noticed there was instead of the 6 or 7 little cliques of groups that were standing around the water tree, there was only about 2, and it was the freshmen and then the varsity. So starting to see those guys wanting to be around, and some of them freshmen were starting to trickle over. I guess they're getting taken under the wing, and it's nice to see that's starting to become who we are as a group that's all together and all going the same direction.
Coach, if you look into your crystal ball here and realize, obviously you've just had 1 week of practice so far, but the regular season's going to be here way before we know it here. Look into your crystal ball, who are some of the players that you think are really going to step up, maybe some underclassmen that are going to maybe surprise us, get their names out there this year and really make an impact for you?
Sure. I'll start up front. Excuse me. I'll start up front with Evan Wessels. Evan Wessels played O-line, D-line for us last year. He's put in some time. He's starting to get to some camps. He's putting in some time in the weight room. He's grown up a little bit. No one wants to step across the ball from him when we get to drills. Evan's going to have a real good season, I think. Our center has been a 3-year center for us, Riley Wiesner. He's doing everything we asked. He's got a good motor. He'll play defensive end as well. Listen to the last 2 coaches and talk about only playing one way. I can't wait to get to that level of Windsor football, because these guys are they're on both sides of the ball. That's for sure. Colin Carter, I think, will have a great defensive season this year. He's got a nose for the football. We lost him to a gnarly dislocated finger that was about 90 degrees last year, required surgery, all that kind of stuff. So before he really got a chance to get going, we ended up losing him. We might have a sophomore too stepping up. I'll leave their names out for now, but those couple for sure. And then again, we got some of that stable of running backs. Hopefully, we keep those guys rolling through there.
Sure. Excellent.
And if I don't say it, I'll get in trouble when I get home. But AJ Patrick is this last season he became our all-time leading receiver. So to think that he's not going to have a great year is silly. He's gonna blow up.
And of course, we know AJ too,
Sure.
from his exploits in other areas, the basketball court and things like that. Matt, what do you got there, buddy?
Up next, we have Coach Russ Schmidt from the DeSoto Dragons. This will be his first season as head coach over at DeSoto. And talk about jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire after that 1-9 record. The Dragons have lost 12 players to graduation. And Coach Schmidt, I guess, taking the reins now, it's not a well-received problem to have. What do we have as far as replacements filling in? Because I know getting Eli Tebow back at least is going to be like getting a new running back, like picking up a free agent.
We're going to be a young football team for sure. Eli being healthy, he just came off a foot injury from a couple of weeks ago, so this last week we've had him healthy. But we're much different than all the other guests that you've had here. Obviously, we're coming off a 1-9 season where I don't know that the athleticism is an issue as much as it is, the Dragon state of mind. When I met with the kids in our first football meeting, that there was a T-shirt branded that the kids wore at school, and we got together and we had 160 kids on paper show up for a football sign-up. And I asked them what their Dragon state of mind was, and nobody could answer. And I said, could I give you my perception of what your Dragon state of mind is? And they go, please. And I go, it's acceptable to get beat by Hillsborough 70-0, Festus 40-0, North County, and I just went down the line. I said I didn't sign up for that. I said your Dragon state of mind and my Dragon state of mind are two different directions. So we got to come towards a common cause here and start doing the little things right. And I think Coach talks about building this program. Our very first day in June, we hired a strength and conditioning coach in Mike Sobel. And our dynamic warm-up took 40 minutes. It was something new to the kids, but it was so painful to watch because we were so stiff. We couldn't bend. And that 19-minute drive home from DeSoto home, I'm thinking to myself, what did I get? We don't have an athlete here that can bend an ankle, knee, or hip. And, it's basically just getting them acclimated to a different way of doing things. And that's probably the biggest thing to overcome. We've always done it this way. No, we're doing it this way. And battling those little battles in order to have success. It's like today, I told Coach coming in, how did your Saturday go? I said, probably not as well as I would have expected. A great week and a poor performance, a poor showing by my standards today. And somebody approached me about expectations. I said, I'm not lowering my expectations for your expectations. I said, that's the problem around here. And it's district-wide. It's not just football. And I said it's a culture, and it's something we have to change. One little piece at a time. Like the first day we started warming up, we couldn't keep our foot behind the line. And I said, that's the problem. I said, you can't follow instructions. That's a 5-yard penalty right there. We've got to be able to do the little things right in order to and it's all coach cliche, but it's true. And when we start stacking those little successes, the big successes will come. So this is going to become a process.
Well said, Coach. Mr. Jeff.
Well, if anyone can do it, I have full confidence in your ability to be able to change that culture with your experience, Coach, and being able to see you in that position over the years. So these guys probably aren't glad to see you back under the head coaching microphone, but I am for sure. But anyway, talk about changing that culture, and I think you hit on an important point there, and maybe expound on it. It's not one major thing at a time. It's a series of small details accumulating together to try to change what they're used to, changing that mindset, right?
Right. I look around the room, everybody's got a branded shirt from their school. I don't. We're kind of like the have-nots. I listened to Coach talk about the fundraising out of Rock. I aspire to have a fundraising, something like that. We just don't have money in our coffers. I've spent my whole budget on shoulder pads. That's it. mouthpieces, but shoulder pads, just
Right.
because, and Coach Saharsky and I had these discussions. Would you put this on your son on Friday night? No.
Right.
Then why are we putting them on our kids? I just
Exactly.
administratively now I had to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, we have to address the needs of these kids now and quit putting it off. And community service, just all of that stuff comes together, and we want to pass a tax or bond issue to improve our athletic facilities. We got to get our kids out there beating the bushes so that the community, we're giving back. I've talked to the Rotary, I've talked to the Chamber of Commerce, and as business leaders in the community, I challenged them. I said, you're sitting here telling me that you're tired of driving by a facility that's decades in the making that should be changed. We can't change it ourselves. I need your support when we get tax or bond issues. What's that look like? What's your dragon state of mind as a business owner helping our student athletes? Because are you going to be the person sitting back there complaining about the problem? Or are you going to help me fix the problem? So we got to have a partnership here.
Right. It's a wider cultural change that you need to take. It's not just within the players, within the school. You've got to get the whole community to look at it differently.
That's my objective.
Well, and you wearing, multiple hats this year too, that may be a disadvantage from a coaching standpoint, but an advantage from an administration standpoint as well in trying to get some of those things done. So I know that's not a question, but
there's challenges there, and I'm not going to lie about it. Here's the difference between my hire. I told the superintendent I had a parent meeting in March, April, and I got scolded for it. Why would you have a parent meeting and not allow your coaches have parent meetings? And I said, why would you hire a football coach in March and not let his parent? I said, if I'm the AD and I hire somebody and it's their season and they're behind the 8 ball, I'm going to allow them to have that parent meeting to push out communication that's necessary in order to have success. And it's been like playing catch up all along. And my biggest fear is I didn't have a meaningful football staff meeting until May, because all the guys on staff are track coaches and baseball coaches.
right.
Are basketball coaches and wrestling coaches. So, my staff meeting on Mondays and Fridays when I was on campus is when Coach and I are walking down the hall, rubbing paint, to his classroom, and then catching another one on his prep period for those weeks in between. And then I try to be mindful of family time on the weekends, but and when we got together, we didn't even talk X's and O's. It was how have we gotten to this spot? Okay, how big a shovel do I need to start getting us out of this spot? What's this look like? And then we started opening up the X's and O's and special teams and those sorts of things. But it's for my standpoint, this conversation, about kids and names. I told them today. I said we did nothing today that would empower me to come to this conversation. I told them where I was going today to talk about you. You have done nothing to this point. And I told their parents as I walked out. I said, you have to earn the right for that to happen. I said, I'm all about promoting kids, anybody that knows me, but I can't promote this effort today. And it's so fluid because our depth is in different spots pretty deep, and then in other spots it's not. Mm-hmm. We're aspiring to break things up so we don't have as many kids going both ways. But this is culturally, it's a process, because now that you're going one way, you have to give 100% going that one way. We found out today that conditioning wise, we aren't going one way. I saw it, but I knew what was going to happen today. Coaches, you all have the group text and everything, and last night about 8:00, I just typed in adversity. I said, this is how this is going to unfold tomorrow. First day of pads, it's going to get hot. We're going to be inside, outside. How are we going to manage all this? And they didn't respond well to it. Did towards the end, but if you quantify that in football terms, we're beat. We got to be consistent throughout 4 quarters, not how we play in the fourth quarter.
Right.
Coach Funston, you start off at home against Herculaneum, and Coach Schmidt, you start at home against Bishop DeBerg. Coach Funston, can you give us a little preview as to what your week one's going to look like?
Revenge against Herky.
Yeah, it's definitely on our mind. Coach Boss is he does a real good job of fitting his scheme for the players that he has, and I know that they lost quite a bit last year with their seniors. They had a good season, and they put it on us week one. I don't know that we were ready for the intensity. I was telling somebody the other day, Herky always kind of prides themselves in being a hard-nosed team. I can say that as a former Black Cat. We always like to be hard-nosed and hit you in the mouth. That was just the mentality of that town, the culture of that town and how that goes. So we weren't ready for it, and they caught us. But we're again, you go from 3 seniors and not having as much leadership as you'd like to having guys that have played a little bit and now they're ready to take that next step. So one way or the other, we know we're going to be in for a dogfight. We're preparing right now to defend our house.
Coach Schmidt.
Bishop DeBerg, we know what they didn't. We didn't improve last year at DeSoto, and I don't know that they had improved much more than what we had last year. So they're a co-op school, so you always got to be mindful of that. And I think that in high school football is becoming a new norm for some schools. And, if we put them on the schedule and they co-op with the right school, all of a sudden they've got some dudes you didn't expect to show up. They weren't there the year before. Brentwood and Clayton's an example. So that's going to become our senior night. We're going to do our senior night first game of the season and get that out of the way. And we want to hopefully come out and be fundamentally sound and like I said, do the little things to make the big things happen in order for us to have sustained success.
Well, Coach Schmidt, congratulations on the head coaching position here, and best of luck in week one against the Cavaliers. That has been Coach Funston from the Windsor Owls and Coach Russ Schmidt from the DeSoto Dragons. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to dive into the small schools on Midwest Sports Show. This is the Jefferson County football preseason preview. Live stream STL.
Hey, Ray Halbrook here with Livestream STL Media. We wear a lot of hats in this business, and to tell you the truth, we have a lot of hats from the area here in the Jefferson County and St. Louis County area here, and we'd really just like to tell you about all the different hats that we take care of here with a lot of different schools, a lot of different organizations, things like that. So as I'm doing this hat, you might be thinking, hey, I'm a business, and I'm looking for a way to advertise my business. Well, here's a perfect way right here. Advertise with us here at Livestream STL. Real easy. Sponsor with us, 314-852-4398. I promise you will not be disappointed as we continue our hats here, because we wear a lot of hats. We'd love to wear your hat as a business as well. So partner with us as we continue our amazing coverage in the Jefferson County and St. Louis County area. We'd love to have you on here as a business, so consider giving us a call. Again, I'll throw this up here real quick, 314-852-4398. And again, like I said, your business helps us continue the great coverage in Jefferson County. I've got a handful more here, but man, we'd really love to have you as a part of our businesses as well. Again, if you're a business, big business, small business, doesn't matter, give us a call, 314-852-4398. I promise you will not be disappointed, as I got 2 more hats left here. And man, we appreciate having all of the amazing businesses in Jefferson County and St. Louis County. So again, give us a call, 314-852-4398. I promise you will not regret it. Have a great day.
The Jefferson County Tourism Commission invites you to explore the natural beauty, fine dining, parks, wineries and breweries, scenic drives, historic sites, and even a local raceway. All this and so much more. All these things can be found right here in Jefferson County, Missouri. Plan your trip today at visitjeffersoncounty.com, the main source for all things Jefferson County.
And we are ready for our second round here for the football preview. We're going to preview some of the small schools here, and we've got two great coaches here coming in here, and we've got folks diving out drinks and things like that behind us and whatnot. But good to turn it back over here to Matt. Matt, my friend, what do we got going on here, boss?
Next up, we have from the Crystal City Hornets, immediately on my right, Coach Dan Fox, and from the Grandview Eagles, that would be head coach Jason Kimino. Thank you again, coaches, for taking time out, being here part of this. We're going to start off with Coach Fox from the Crystal City Hornets. I would like to say first off, congratulations on a season, because I know personally as a former player back in this area at Herculaneum that I know just the longevity, everything that Crystal City, brought to the table. They were always willing. They were always ready to go. This program, up to just a little while back, it was like, as I would tell them, like this close to having the plug pulled on it. And you resurface and last year reel off an 8-2 record. Congratulations to you. You lost to Louisiana in Class 1 of the district playoffs. You opened this season against Chaffee, who you shut out last year 43-0. But as we had talked to some of the other coaches here, you only lost six players to graduation. But I would say in looking at what you lost two of your top three rushers in Bolton, Rafferty, Schamberg. Each of them had over 500 yards, and then that was also your starting quarterback as well, too. So as you've heard some of the other coaches talk about their difficulties and their trials and tribulations, the quarterback's always the main piece of the puzzle. So go ahead, give us the breakdown on some of the challenges rolling into this year and what you got on the forefront.
Sure, and I appreciate it. We actually, Raftery and Bolton are actually seniors this year.
Oh, okay.
So we only graduated 2 seniors. Hayden Reynolds was our starting left tackle.
Good for you. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. Kyle Schaumburg was our quarterback. But those guys came with 3-4 years of varsity experience, so filling those shoes are going to be hard to do. But we do have a lot of kids coming back for their senior year this year. The only difference in this season from last season is we're not going to be sneaking up on anybody. Nobody's going to be expecting us to be the traditional Crystal City of the previous years. We're going to have some teams that were maybe a little bit irritated and agitated that we rose up and we beat them last year, and we're going to get their best games. So, I'm preparing their kids for that. And, we just have a great group of seniors this year that have been dedicated to the program, and the success of last year, hats off to those guys.
Coach, first of all, the number of seniors that you had that you lost, that was my mistake. So
yeah.
That's my first personal. Anyway, your numbers improved greatly the last year over the previous year as far as how many kids you had in the program. I hate to ask it because it is one of those questions we always ask the small schools, how the numbers look this year and how many of those kids are, and I'm going to just follow up with my lineman question, great O lineman, D lineman. Got to give those guys some love.
Yeah. We actually have, our numbers are fairly the same as last year. We're right around 24, 25 kids, and it's Class 1 football. That doesn't sound like a lot, but that's what it is. So all of our kids, you talk about kids that only play offense, only play defense, they're going to play everything. And at some point, if they're not a starter, they will eventually be a starter just because of potential injuries or, so kid needs a break. So we try to count on every kid, even incoming freshmen. They're going to participate and play in Friday night football. We do the best we can to get them physically and mentally prepared for that. I have 2 returning seniors that have played the offensive line since freshmen, Luke Holdinghausen and Seth Center. They're going to be the backbone of our offense. They're thick kids that can move. They're smart, and we're going to have to rely on them paving ways for Caden Raftery and Cannon Bolton and Cohen Compton and Landon DeRuse and Nolan Eisenbice and anybody else, Evan Wolf, that wants to carry the ball for us.
A lot of old familiar names there, Crystal City names that you just mentioned that generations have played ball for the Hornets for sure.
Does the 8-2 record have anything to do with maybe more kids coming out for the program, seeing maybe like a new Hornet identity, if you will?
Yeah, once again, we just years ago when I was hired and I accepted the position, it was basically we had to draw a line in the sand, and it was just what direction are we going to go? It's always going to be a numbers issue in small football, but we're at least going to physically prepare these kids, and we have a great group. This last year and this year, like our summer attendance was the best I've ever seen out of any school I've coached at. 90% of the kids were there 90% of the time. Like, I didn't have to go chasing kids around. These kids love it. They want to be the best athletes they can. They want to be the best football players they can. They want to represent Crystal City. And what a great problem to have. But you got to give credit to them. There's times where we don't have a day where we're not lifting, and I got kids ask me if I'll open it up for them. That's where we're at. Hopefully it can continue. But that wasn't the mentality when I took over. It was a lot different, and we just have a great group of kids that, they're just gym rats, and they love it.
And real quick before we wrap up with you, I got a question about your scheduling. How difficult is that to find non-conference schools around the state? Because as I was talking to Ray before the show, and we kind of said it each week whenever we were doing our football show last year, that the number of miles, the frequent flyer miles that you would have to put on for travel to find opponents. Can you just give some of the listeners and some of the viewers just some of the difficulties in finding that and putting just a schedule together?
At first it wasn't difficult because everybody wanted to play us. Now that we've had a little success, there are some teams that maybe don't want to play us anymore. Matter of fact, 2 teams on our schedule we're not going to play them next year. I'm not going to tell you who it is, but they don't want to play us anymore. So we have to get kind of creative. We've reached across the state of Missouri, looking into some teams on the west side of the state that maybe want to do a neutral site game somewhere in the middle of the road. And we actually did one of those a couple years back, and it worked out well. It's a pain. We don't want to be driving all the way across the state or anything like that. But when you're a small school on this side of the state, you got to get a little creative. You're going to have to travel at least a little bit. All the small schools on this side of the state are north or south. They're not much in the middle. So, and we're trying to play against some comparative schools. We got to be smart about it because we also want to play the following week and the following week. So, while we're pretty proud about the football program we've been able to put together, we don't necessarily go play a Class 4 or Class 5 school just because they have an opening, we have an opening, and we have to fill it. Because, if I get one kid hurt, it's going to change the dynamic of what we do. If they get one kid hurt, next man up. So we got to be kind of smart about who we can play as well. But yeah, it's starting to become a little bit of an issue where we got to do, thankfully I have an athletic director who's forward thinking and he's reaching out to schools already and just trying to line things up. We just do the best we can.
Shout out to you for what you've been able to do and put together over there at Crystal City. Coach Kimino.
Yeah.
3-7 last year. Lost to Pius in the first round of the Class 1 district playoffs. As we've gone around the table here, now you've only, at least our numbers say, you've lost only 2 to graduation last year. One of them, big man, Justin Blankenship, and I think you had
Austin
Blankenship.
Yep.
And then Mr. Poole on the offensive line, I believe.
Yep, Chase Poole.
Okay, so what kind of challenges have you had this year as far as people stepping in, or it wouldn't seem to be a perceived lack of leadership, losing only 2, but give us your thoughts and tell us where we're at going into the beginning weeks.
Yeah, so, for sure. So only losing 2 guys, you'd like to think things are going to turn around pretty well, but they're two pretty big pieces, So Austin, great defensive player for us, did a lot for us on offense as well. One of the best defensive players in the conference, was an all-state kid as a junior, had the potential to probably be as a senior, just didn't shake out that way. Jace Poole, kind of stepped into his own there on the offensive line and had to be a leader for us there. And so, all things considered, we're losing 2 dudes with a lot of guys coming back who last year didn't have a lot of experience, but now they do have that experience coming back, and so we're really excited for that opportunity with that.
Well, Coach K, I'm going to switch gears here. I'm not going to talk about the line.
Yeah.
I'm more interested to hear this year how you think, because you got a quarterback last year, first season under his belt.
Yep.
What are your skilled position players looking like, starting with the backfield and then moving
Yeah.
out?
So again, I mean, Austin played a little bit of A-back for us there, but definitely wasn't necessarily his spot. He was definitely a defensive guy for us. So all things considered, again, we're bringing back everybody and then and more, right? Because we were pretty young last year. I think we started at any given time 4 freshmen on both sides of the ball. And so those dudes are now sophomores who have a full season of varsity experience. under their
Throw
belts.
some names out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, talk offensive line wise, you got like guys like Tucker Reinhardt who are playing both sides of the ball there as going to be a sophomore. Ethan Smith, another sophomore who's started on the offensive line for us there. But the nice thing, I'm bringing it to offensive line even though you didn't want to. Really only one senior there, and so same situation. It holds well for the future, and those guys are making some tremendous growth there, which is awesome. Backfield wise, again, same idea. We have 2 sophomore guys who got some experience there last year. A guy in Wyatt Kime playing a little bit of wing A-back for us. Isaac Walker playing some B-back, and then on top of that, you got some guys who are going to be seniors who, Nash Moore, who was right around 1,000-yard rusher for us last year, did great. Was definitely a staple of our offense, doing some really good stuff, and he's coming back and looking good and is a physical runner. And a guy like Cameron Hagan, who his season got cut short with an ACL injury in week 4, and so he didn't get to play most of his junior year. And he was a guy we were going to rely a lot on. So coming back, and he's healthy and feeling good and looking good and doing everything that he's doing. And then even going out wide after that, you talk about we're bringing back 2 dudes who got a ton of snaps at wide receiver, and Travis Hoskins and Wyatt Tebow, and then adding the mix, a sophomore in Cameron Brooks, a good tall long kid who can jump and can play and has a good sense for the ball, a good basketball player for us, and then other guys, Jacob Walker finding his way to find the ball and all that stuff, and so we're excited about what we got.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Hagan and Moore, especially for me, are the 2 guys that I'll be watching really closely this season to see how they work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matty?
Well, I was just going to piggyback kind of really what off what Coach had said here, that with 11 seniors now on the roster for this year, I guess team chemistry should not be much of an issue. You should have pretty much your leadership set in stone, but you want to elaborate on that just a little bit?
No, absolutely. It's nice going from, again, we had 2 really great seniors last year in Austin and Jace, and they did a phenomenal job, but it's tough. I mean, it's small school football, but it's still tough when you only got 2 of them, right? Trying to be the leaders. Again, I'm a brand new head coach last year with pretty much a brand new staff, and those guys trying to do what I'm asking them to do, it's all new, right? And we're trying to figure that out, and they did a great job. And so now all of our juniors coming in, a year of experience doing that stuff, and most of those guys hadn't really gotten very many varsity reps the year before, so it was like a whole brand new team last year. And so we're really excited about moving forward with that, and a year under their belts. Again, we just had a parent meeting today, and I said to the parents the same thing I expect out of the kids. Like, I'm a year in, I want to be a year better, just like they do. I'm going to ask them to improve. I'm trying to improve myself and get better. And so now I'm asking a lot of those seniors, trying to set some pretty high expectations for the guys that are excited about being here.
Which would piggyback onto the question then, from as I asked coaches earlier, is there something from last year you either want to bring over to this year or not bring over to the team this year? I mean, I know it's a really general question, but is there something from last year like I would like to see us continue it this year, or something that you're like, you know what, no, I don't want this.
No, I think
to
just
follow
a steady improvement is kind of the big thing. And like I said, last year, if you want to talk about immaturity, so to speak, just because we're so young, right? Guys who just don't know what it's like to play varsity football, and so now again coming back to where we have guys who do have that changes the expectation to get a little bit. The standards are a little higher, the expectations are a little higher, and I think our kids are ready to meet that expectation. They have high goals that they want to achieve this year, and so we're just really building off of what we started with last year.
And Coach Fox, we'll wrap up. I mean, it's kind of the same question for you. Is there something from last year you want to see, or maybe not want to see, that's brought over or not brought over this year?
Well, leadership's always something. I mean, we had a big group of juniors, now seniors. I'm trying to get those guys to lead by example, and some of them are taking that on. That when you work so hard to try to get better, you lose sight of being a leader at times. So we're talking to the seniors quite a bit about helping out with the program, doing more than just showing up, giving back to some of the younger kids and helping them out with drills. communicating with the team, taking a little bit less stress off the coaches. And then on top of it, we're another year seasoned and hopefully a little bit stronger, and so we're trying to get a little more tough in between the tackles.
And just we'll finish up with you since you start the season at home against Chatfield again. Last year you shut them out 43-0 in week 1. Wash, rinse, repeat this year?
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, sure, but that's why you play the games on Friday nights. So I know Chaffee's going to be prepared. And once again, we're not sneaking up on anybody. So I don't think they really enjoyed that game last year, and it hasn't happened to them very often. So I can imagine they're going to just reload and probably be pretty emotional for them.
And one last question here. Grandview opens up the schedule against Skyline.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know about Skyline other than they make great chili in Cincinnati?
Because anything I could try to find on them, I came up with nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't know a ton because again we didn't play them last year. We had played Paris, but they dropped to 8-man football, and so we were kind of scrambling to find somebody. And luckily we found a school that's similar in size to us, which is what we were really excited about. And so we're kind of playing them neutral site game. They're down near the Lake of the Ozarks, so we're playing them at St. James High School. Going to, I guess, serve as a home game for us, so to speak. But not a ton. I know they were very similar to us last year in regard to record, but I know they play some very tough opponents. And, we're just excited for that opportunity. I know they have some athletes, but again, small school football, you never know. Guys go down, numbers change. It's going to change up what you do on offense and defense. So we'll have to wait and see what they do in the jamboree and all that stuff, and we'll learn more, and we'll start getting prepared at that time.
Find out all about Skyline coming up here on the 25th, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We'll find out all we need to
Yeah,
know.
absolutely.
Coach Fox, and that was Coach Jason Kemenow from the Crystal City Hornets and from the Grandview Eagles. This is the Main Street Sports Show as we roll on, and we're going to bring in
let's do the Chinese fire drill.
Quick change.
Coach
Come on in,
Atley
guys.
and Coach Frank Ray from the Jefferson Blue Jays and from the St. Pius Lancers.
And while they're doing that, we're going to let everybody know you can check out the games that we'll be broadcasting. We'll have 2 teams this season. Our main live stream STL Blue
Great
team, and then we'll also have a live stream STL Orange team. But all our games are going to be out here at Pasta House, on both channels there. So you can check that out in the bar area. If you're interested in advertising with us, we are definitely looking for quite a bit of advertisers. We've got about at least 7 or 8 advertising spots left open. So if you're seeing this and you're interested, give us a call there, 314-852-4398 as we roll back on here. And we've got a couple new coaches here, and I'm going to turn it back over here to Matt.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ray. Along with Jeff Whitener, Matt Bates here, we are at Pasta House in Festus, Missouri, and I am joined on my immediate right by St. Pius Lancers head coach Frank Ray, and farther down on the right, Jefferson Blue Jays head coach Matt Atley. Gentlemen, once again, thank you guys for taking time out on a Saturday to join us and do this. And Coach Frank, we are going to start with you. 8-3 record last year, and lost to Duchesne in the second round of the Class 1 district playoffs. And as you've heard us going around the table, you've lost 17 players to graduation. And I know you know what the next question coming is. So, give us the lowdown on where you've lost, what you've lost, and big keys and big players you're going to need to replace.
We have 4 seniors. I think we have 4 juniors. So I'm hearing some of these big numbers and get a little jealous. We've got 8 total seniors and juniors combined. I don't know, replace what we're after. We're just looking for dudes that want to line up and work and play football, and right now we have that. So.
Well, right now, Coach, being new to this area, new to St. Pius, so why don't we just take a moment and why don't you tell folks a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you came to the job here for the Lancers?
I just came from Hillsboro. I'd been there for the last several years, and the last couple years in particular, I was a defensive coordinator there, and job came open and started talking, doing a lot of thinking, and thought this was a pretty good spot to land. So
Hillsboro's had it's kind of like Bill Walsh and the 49ers in the NFL, quite a coaching tree that has come out of that program for sure.
Getting quarterback James Smith at least returning, you don't have that big area to fill, as we've heard most of the other coaches talking about. So at least getting your quarterback back, losing 17 players. At least that's a cornerstone. At least you can build around off somebody that threw for 1,000 and rushed for over 300.
Yeah, and he's a lot more than that. He's just a great kid. He's great at practice. He's good for the younger guys. Kind of shows them the way, and yeah, he's great leader. So we're in good shape with him.
Losing 17 players, we were talking about team continuity, things like that. Is that going to be an issue coming forward, or what are we seeing already in the preseason?
I think they get along great. I don't expect that to be an issue. They're working really hard, so I think kind of the hard work, the sweat together, suffer together a little bit, and I think that's brought them closer. So they've done a lot of work, and they've built pretty good. Our freshmen are the sophomores, freshman and sophomore group, I think, is a little unique. They're not typical, not mindset wise, not athleticism, size. I mean, they're a good group, so we're going to be okay with them.
Any other questions, Jeff?
My only question, Coach, now that you're jumping into the small school areas, but you're still familiar with a lot of area teams.
Mm-hmm.
If you look ahead in the crystal ball and maybe look at some of the teams on your schedule coming up this year, are there any teams out there that just really you think might surprise us in how competitive and how good they're going to be? They might scare you on the schedule?
I mean, I think every team's going to come ready to play, so I'm not too worried about that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, R7 right here. I mean, they've been good for a long time. They'll continue that. So I think every game I expect is going to be a grinder and going to be a lot of fun. So.
All right, Coach. We will be back with you in just a second for some final thoughts. We have Coach Matt Atlee from the Jefferson Blue Jays. Coach Atlee, this is his second season, so add that rookie year last year. Now we got year number 2 coming up here. Lost a tough one to John Burroughs in round 1 of the Class 2 district playoffs last year, 17-14. I guess big question, because you've heard us going around the table here, you lost 13 players at graduation.
Excuse me.
So, big question, you've lost your starting quarterback. Who's going to be competing for that position?
Well, actually, our starting quarterback comes back. Actually, both of them who started last year come back. Carson Hafner started the season for the first 3 games, then Cole Williams rolled in.
Okay.
And Cole Williams comes into his senior campaign this year, and he just finished the year very strong and did a lot of really good things for us. So, we still have, I think, 9 seniors on the roster right now coming up. Our biggest probably concern is that we have 5 new offensive linemen, which, that's a pretty big deal. I will say the kids we have there, they just play with a great intensity and a great effort. They're consistently getting better. We tell them get 1% better every day, and you're doing what you need to do, and they've been doing that. So,
any names you want to shout out across the board that we might know off the top of our head? Putting the pieces together on that offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, Levi Stokes just came in, and he's kind of just been a role player for the past couple of years, doing some special teams, and really he hasn't been an offensive lineman. We said, hey, you can play tight end, but we have 2 6'2" kids who are pretty good athletes at tight end, or you can play some left tackle and probably start right now. And he jumped in with both feet, and he's been a great addition. Mikey Frisk coming into his senior campaign as a great leader for us, made the adjustment to center, and he's really stepped into that role and embraced it. He's been bringing people up with him, which is a great thing. Jake Watkins and Alex Roth have kind of filled in on the O-line as well. 2 individuals who, again, didn't even play O-line. And then Wyatt Place has been practicing there and probably was our 6th man last year, maybe 7th man. So he's getting to jump in at tackle and get some reps as well.
Well, one of the questions I want to ask you, Coach, because I'm a little closer to the Blue Jay program, of course, your second season as head coach, assistant, before, just like everybody else moving up through the ranks. Can you take anything that you learned in that first season as a head coach into this year? What were some of the things that you learned about the job, being the actual head coach versus an assistant that you can take with you this year?
Well, I think it applies to any leadership role. you're not ready for the position until you're in it. Like, there's a lot of trial by fire when you get into that position, and there's no different. You know, the one thing this year is I kind of expect some of the things to happen that are going to happen. And, you know, just going into, I firmly believe I didn't have the team ready last year for our week 1 game, and, you know, that falls directly on me. And so, you know, we've been, as a coaching staff and even talking to the players about it, we're not going to fall into that same trap. We're going to be sure we put our best foot forward. And we've had a great weeks of camp. We've had a really good week this past week. So I know our kids are just excited to get out and play someone else. And, you know, we got to do a little bit of a contact camp over the summer. But it's kind of just hurrying up and waiting at this point. And we're just really trying to get our feet, jump in both feet and get into the season.
Sure, chomping at the bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach Ray, Coach Atlee, I guess mutual question for both of you. Did Coach Ray, any elements of the heat take its toll on anybody this year? Any injuries or anything creep up on anybody that would come as a surprise?
No, I mean they got hot, but yeah, no injuries due to it, so we're good.
Yeah, we do all our stuff mostly in the morning. I think when we went to the contact camp, they got pushed back by an hour and a half, 2 hours, because of the heat. But outside of that, we've been good.
Coach Frank, start the season on the road at Clayton, a Class 4 school, so that should be a big test to open for your season. Your thoughts on facing Clayton in Week 1?
Sure. So they're Brentwood and Clayton now are merged, so that's what we've got. Don't know much about them. I'm still looking to get some shirts, as you can tell. I don't have Pius shirts, so we're still working on clothing first, and then we'll get on to scouting. But no, I don't know much about them. We're going to be ready to play. We're going to play hard. Don't matter who lines up. We'll get going.
Coach Atlee, you have the season opener on the road against Fredericktown, and can you take us through what you expect here in Week 1?
Well, we're actually at home this year.
Right.
We were on the road last year. Yeah.
Right there at
yeah,
home.
Yeah. So, you know, last year they played a hard-fought brand of football, and like I said, they came out and kind of took it to us, low-scoring 6-3 football game. I know they lose some kids at skill positions. I know their coach stepped down, and they got a new coach coming in. Their younger group, they had some talent, and I you know, don't quote me on this, but I think they may have went undefeated in the JV realm, or maybe lost 1 or 2 games. They didn't lose a whole lot. But, you know, I know we had a pretty hard-fought game with them at that point last year that kind of got cut off because of storming and things like that. It's going to be a hard-fought football game. We're looking forward to it. I know our kids are excited to get another shot at them and do it at our place.
Coach, just a follow-up, get back to personnel real quick. Circling back around, as they say. You talked about Mikey Frisk and the leadership role, and I know that he's really a glue guy for the team and moving to center now, which makes perfect sense that you'd have a leadership guy right there. His younger brother, Cooper, heck of a basketball player, started a lot of games, got a lot of minutes on the varsity basketball last year as a freshman, as a sophomore this year. Where is he projected in your lineup? Is he playing at all? And do you have him at a skilled position area?
So Cooper's one of those athletes that it almost is like when he gets on the field, he just has a different gear. You know, and even at the JV level, it showed pretty glaringly, obviously, last year. And then going into this year, and we had our scrimmage last night, and even with some varsity kids on the field and him playing in the first or second group, just once that ball hits his hands, he's so quick and so dynamic. So, I mean, we're going to have to find a way to get him involved. But fortunately, we return a lot of skill kids. You know, for the lack of depth we may have up front right now, we kind of make up for it in the skill position. So if we can continue to build on that, I think we can you know, I told everyone there's a completed puzzle here, but we're still trying to find it. And once we get there, I think we'll be in a pretty good spot.
So you could take him, like, for example, like you had one of your former players, like a Colby out, and move him into a couple of different places where he can maybe get some touches. Whether it's you could move him to wide, you could move him in the slot, you could move him in the backfield, various places, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we've put him at quarterback here for the past couple weeks just because, you know, you want the ball in the hand of your best athlete, and one of your most trusted athletes every snap. And I think he can be one of those kids for us. But, fortunately, we have 4 good quarterbacks right now in Cole Williams, Carson Hafner, Cooper, and Noah Beeler. So, we're hoping to just continue on with that trend. And
Right, Beeler's another one we could have talked about, another great up-and-coming player in quarterback. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
Coach Ray, anything you want to touch on before we let you go that viewers need to know about Lancer football this year?
Nope. We'll get started next week and see where it goes.
Let it all work itself out.
Get the man
in
some
wash.
shirts and he's ready to roll.
That's right.
There
I
you
need
go.
some shirts.
Lancer proud. That is head coach for the St. Pius Lancers, Frank Ray, and head coach for the Jefferson Blue Jays, Matt Atley. Gentlemen, thank you both. And this has been the Main Street Sports Show football preview. And I will send it back to Mr. Ray for final thoughts.
Yes.
And again, to thank the nice people over here at Pasta House for the accommodations. It's been very well. And Mr. Jeff as well. Any final comments from you before we head out?
I'm just like the coaches. I am chomping at the bit and ready to go. Ready to call some football. We'll have, in addition to the game previews we'll be doing this year, we'll also have our Upon Further Review show the following week. Matt, Ray, and I will talk about the past week's action and give a little preview about what's coming up. So can't wait to see you at some games or on Livestream STL.
Absolutely. We'll wrap things up here. I'm just here so I don't get fined. Just so it just is what it is. Folks, we are looking for some sponsors. And before we get to the sponsors part here, we'll let you know all of our games that we do each week. We have 2 channels here. They'll be out here on the TVs here at the Pasta House. Also, a couple other places, Texas Roadhouse. You get a chance to jump over to Texas Roadhouse, and we'll have those always going around throughout the week too. They'll be replaying as well on our live channel when we're not live, and also over at Case and Bucks up in Barnhart as well. So lots going on, but we're getting ready to have some banners made up, and you'll see these into the different restaurants here. This one's for the Pasta House here. They'll have all the games out here at the bar area. So if you're interested in advertising with us, we would love to have you on board here. This is going to be seen by a lot more people than we anticipated in the years past. This is year 6 for us. So year 6 here, and we are off and running to see thousands and thousands of viewers checking all the games that we do out here, all these different restaurants. So definitely get a hold of us. Give us a call, 314-852-4398. We'd appreciate that. And final little thing that we're going to post out here, we are going to be covering a jamboree this week out here at Festus High School. So Festus will be here, I believe. Sackman will be with them, and I heard at least Jackson.
I think it's Jackson, yes.
And I believe Soldan. I'm not sure if that's right. I know there's a high school from the St. Louis area as well. So we'll have a handful of those teams out here, and we'll get that started. I believe that starts at 6 o'clock, and we'll have that information for you when we get more information. Again, this week we've got the jamboree. We start next week. It's 2 teams, 2 channels. Check them out, 7 o'clock. And we'll have all of our scheduling on our Facebook page to keep you guys up to date. For Ray Halbrook, all of us here, Livestream STL, thanks so much for watching Main Street Sports. We will see you Friday night from Festus High School. Thanks for watching today's broadcast. Any unauthorized use of this broadcast without the express written consent of Livestream STL is strictly prohibited.